Hello guys, welcome to part 14 of Easy Food series. In this video we will see the functionality of the long click on the meal item. So as you can see in the over popular items meal list, when I click for a long time on any meal of this list, then I will show this bottom sheet that includes some information about that meal, and when I click on this bottom view, we will navigate to this activity to show all the other information about that meal. So that's what we are going to implement in this video. Let's get started. Select your fragments package and create a new package and call this package bottom sheet. Now create a new fragment inside that package and choose empty fragment. Now change its name to meal bottom sheet fragment. Now delete these comments, we don't need them. But don't delete this function because we are going to use it. Now delete the second parameter and delete this one also because we deleted the second parameter, and delete the private var param2, also this one and this one. And now right click on the param one and refactor, then change its name to meal ID because we want to pass the meal ID to this meal bottom sheet, and we will use this meal ID to get the other information of that meal. Also we can change this const file name to meal ID like that, and of course put it in here and in here. Now open the XML file of this fragment and we are going to design the bottom sheet. As you can see, that's how it looks like. So let's design this. First, make this constraint layout, and then we're gonna have an image view 100 SDB for the width and for the height, and give it an ID, image bottom sheet. And now add the constraints, one from the start to the start of the parent and top to the top of the parent. Then, as you can see, we have some margin from the top and from the start and from the bottom. So let me just add bottom to the bottom of the parent and add the margin. And let's give 5 dB for the margin. Now create a linear layout. And this linear layout is going to take 0 dB for the width and wrap content for the height. And this of course is going to be horizontal one because as you can see we're gonna add these two text views beside each others. So this one is going to be horizontal. Now add the constraints, start to the end of the image, top to the top of the image, and end to the end of the parent. Now give it a margin 5 dB, and I want to extend this layout like that. Then I'm gonna add the first text view, gonna be wrap content for both. Text is, I'm gonna add any text in here just for preview purposes. So I'm gonna add Palestine and gonna change the text color to G black, and the font family, this will be my font. And now I'm gonna add a drawable start, and this drawable is location or country, what I called it actually, area, yeah, area. Then I want to change the color of this drawable, so drawable tint, and change it to G black. Now give this weight, and this weight is 1. Now copy this and paste it below, but you're gonna change the text. Let's say this is B for example, and also you want to change the drawable to categories. And now add the IDs of these two text views. So the first one is TV bottom sheet area, and I'm gonna copy this ID and add it in here. I'm just gonna change area to category, and I'm gonna add a random source to the image for preview. So let's say accent, for example. And now we need to add two text views, one for the name of that meal and another text view, read more. So let's do that. I'm gonna have a text view, wrap content, and add a text in here just for a preview, meal name. Then add the constraint start to the start. I want to make start to the start with this linear layout, so I'm gonna add an ID for this linear layout, and I'm gonna name it bottom sheet, linear bottom sheet. Then this constraint will be with that linear layout, and top to the bottom with the linear layout. And I want to give this margin top, let's give it 10 dB, and then change its color to G black, also its font to my font. Now one more text view, I'm gonna copy this one, paste it below, and change the text to read more, and then change the constraints of this text view. So start to the start of this one, so let me just add an ID for this text view. So ID bottom sheet meal name. I'm gonna add, so copy this ID and put it in this constraints. Now we click on the image view, we're gonna just change its size. So change it to 80 and 80, let's see. Okay, that's better. And also I wanna add scale type attribute and put it center crop. And the last step, just change the height to wrap content. And that's how our layout looks like. Okay, now go back to the meal bottom sheet fragment, and now let's have an instance from view binding. So private latent var binding, and this is a fragment meal bottom sheet binding. Take this and inflate it in the creative view, and pass the inflator. Now return the root of this binding, and now override the onViewCreated function. Okay, now we also want to get the view model from the activity, so private var view model, and this is home view model private latent var, and then we will get this view model from the activity. View model. Now open the home view model, and we want to write a function in this view model to get that meal by its ID. So function get meal by ID, and we will have ID as a parameter, and open curly brackets. Then we use retrofit instance dot get meal details, and we will pass the ID. Then call in queue, pass an object of callback, and this object and the generic inside this callback is meal list. Then open curly brackets and override these two methods. In this response we will have a list of meals, but it's actually gonna have only one meal. So as you can see, it has a list of meals, but as we said, our meal is going to be at the index 0. Okay, now let's get the meal from the response. So val meal equals response dot body dot meals. As we said, this returns a list of meals, but our meal will be at the index 0, which is the only meal in that list. And you can use first to get the first meal inside that list. And now we want to post this meal inside a live data. So let's go up and create a live data, bottom sheet meal live data, and this equals immutable live data, and it will have meal. So close this and go to the bottom, and now make a null check, so .let, and then use the bottom live data to post the value inside it, and you're gonna pass it. It is a reference to the meal, so we can rename this meal like that. So if you don't know what we did in here, we just checked if this meal is not equal to null, then I want to execute the block inside in here, and I will get the meal as a reference inside this lambda function. And inside on failure, I'm gonna log an error message from the home view model, and I want to log the error. So t.message.toString. Now go back to the meal bottom sheet fragment, and we're gonna use view model to call that function .get meal by ID, and we want to send the meal ID. Now pass the meal ID, and as you can see, this might be null, so we can wrap it with this let null check, as you can see, as we did in the view model. And now I'm going to create a function to observe that bottom sheet meal. So create that function and use the view model, observe, and we actually forgot to add that function to be able to observe that live data. So go back to the home view model and create another function, observe bottom sheet meal, and this function equals, and this function will return a live data of meal, and we're gonna return, and we're just gonna return the bottom sheet meal live data. I'll go back in here and observe bottom sheet meal, then call observe and pass the view lifecycle owner and pass observer. Now we have our meal in this lambda function, so we can fill all. So now we can fill the views with the information. Now first use glide.width and pass this, then load. We're gonna load the image of that meal. So thumb dot into, and we're gonna use binding dot image bottom sheet, and also binding dot tv area dot text. This equals meal dot area. Binding dot tv category dot text, and this one also meal dot category. Binding dot meal name dot text equals meal dot str meal. So now we filled the views with the information. Okay, now open the home fragment and let me show you. So we're gonna set the on-click listener to these items. You can set it to the random meal, but I would like to set it to these items. So we need our adapter, which is most popular adapter, and we're going to have a lambda function, let init var on long item click, and I want to pass meal by category, meals by category. Then this will return unit, and by default this is null. Remove let init from here. Okay, now inside on bind view holder, I'm gonna set a click listener. I'm gonna set a long click listener. So holder.itemView.set on long click listener, and this function always return true. So return true in here. We're gonna invoke this lambda function. So on long item click dot invoke, and we're going to send the meal list of the position and make question mark in here. Now go back to the home fragment and we're going to implement that lambda function. So on popular item long click, create that function and use the popular items adapter dot on long item click, then equals. Inside this function we're going to have an instance from our bottom sheet fragment. So meal bottom sheet fragment equals meal bottom sheet fragment dot new instance. Now in here we're going to pass the ID of our meal. So let me just rename this it and pass the ID in here, ID meal. And after that I'm gonna call the meal bottom sheet fragment and show. Well, we forgot to do something actually. Go back to the meal bottom sheet fragment and change this to bottom sheet dialog fragment. We should have done this before we started anything, but I forgot. Anyways, now as you can see we have this function. Now you're gonna pass the fragment manager. You can pass the child fragment manager, and you wanna pass a tag which is string. Let's pass meal info, for example. Now let's run the application. Check if everything works. Okay, now let's click. Okay, now long click on any item on here. We can see this bottom view showed up, and in here as well. So as you can see, everything works as we expect. We're not done yet. We need to set a click listener on this view. Whenever we click on it, then we want it to play all the information about that meal inside the meal activity. So let's do that. Open up your XML file for the bottom sheet fragment. You can find it from here. And I'm gonna add an ID for the parent layout. So I'm gonna call this bottom sheet, add it to the parent layout, because we wanna set the click listener on the whole item. Because wherever we click in this item, we wanna execute the click listener function. So add an ID in here, and as we said, this ID is bottom sheet. And then get back to the meal bottom sheet fragment. Let's create a function on bottom sheet dialog click. Create a function, use binding dot bottom sheet dot set on a click listener. Now what we want to do is to navigate to the meal activity, and we want to send this information to this activity, because this activity will use this information to get the meal information again. We can improve that by passing the whole object to this activity, and it doesn't need to make another retrofit call. So you can implement that by yourself. For me, I'm just gonna send this data to this activity and make another retrofit call inside this activity. So let's send this data in here in this fragment. So first we want the meal ID. We already got it in this. We already got it in here, and also let me see. And also we want the meal name. So we can create private var meal name, and this could be null. This string, and this could be null. This echo could be null. And also meal thumb, private var meal thumb, in this also string, and could be null. Now meal name equals meal.strmeal, and meal thumb equals meal.strmealthumb. Now inside on a click listener, we're going first to check if these both variables are not null, then we can navigate to that activity. So if meal name not equal to null and meal thumb not equal to null, then val bundle equals bundle, and I'm gonna fill that bundle.apply put string. So the first one is meal ID, so home fragment meal ID. As you can see, this one, it's inside the companion object, so we can access it from outside of the home fragment. And I'm gonna pass the meal ID. I'm gonna duplicate that line and send the meal name, and meal thumb, and send the meal thumb. Then start this activity. And now val intent equals intent. And I want to move from this activity to the meal activity. Okay, we can put a bundle inside this intent, but I actually wanna put extras inside this intent, not a bundle. So in here, I'm just gonna take this line, put it above, and I'm gonna delete this bundle. Then intent.apply intent. Then put extra instead of put string. Then I want to start this activity. So start activity and start this intent. Let's run the app again and see if everything works. Okay, now let's click, and as you can see, we moved to the meal activity. Okay, there is one more thing we need to do before I end this video, which is, as you can see, this is the original app. Let me show you. We have a curve in the bottom sheet dialog, so we're gonna add this curve. And to add this curve, it's a little bit different. So scroll down to your values package, create a new resource file, and call this styles. Now I want you to copy this. Code. I will leave it in the comments. This actually is not my solution. I found this on the internet. So basically you need to override the bottom sheet dialog style. So that's what we are doing in here. Now instead of this drawable rounded top shape, you're gonna create a shape for this. So let's create that. Go to your drawable, right click on it, and create this shape, rounded top shape. You can change its name, of course. Now change this to shape, and this shape is rectangle. Add a color, which is white, and add the corners from the top right, or you can add from the top left also. So this is 20 dB, and then go to your themes, and you're gonna assign that style to the bottom sheet dialog. And as we said, we're gonna add that style like that, and this is the style. Now let's run the application. Long click on here. As you can see, we have this rounded corner from the top right. So that's all for this video. If you learned something new, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. See you in the next video.